Eli Carter had never expected to share a dorm room with an alien. But here he was, aboard the massive orbital academy station, assigned to room 7B with a roommate unlike any he had ever imagined. His roommate, Vera, was from a warrior race known for their strict discipline and unusual customs. She had tall, graceful features, soft greenish skin, and eyes that seemed to pierce through everything she looked at. Eli could feel her gaze on him even when she wasn't looking directly. The first time Eli met Vera, she barely spoke. She moved quickly around the small room, setting her belongings neatly in ways that seemed almost ceremonial. She placed her small metallic equipment in a corner, folded her uniform perfectly, and then, without a word, climbed onto her bed. Eli had tried to make small talk, asking about her homeworld, her studies, even what her favorite foods were, but she only tilted her head and let out a sound that he guessed was her way of laughing. Eli felt uncomfortable. He had never lived with someone so distant. At first he thought she simply didn't like him. Maybe humans were strange to her, or maybe she thought he was weak. Whatever the reason, it didn't help that she always seemed alert, always watching the door, always standing near it even when she wasn't supposed to. The first few nights passed quietly. Eli would lie awake, listening to the soft hum of the station, the occasional distant clang of machinery, and the faint rhythmic breathing of his roommate. He had never noticed before how small differences could make a person or an alien so fascinating. Vera's movements were precise and careful, almost like she was always preparing for something. Eli sometimes wondered if she trained at night. Then, on the third night, something happened that would change everything. The station's alarms blared, echoing through the dorm halls in a loud, urgent rhythm. Lights flashed red, casting harsh shadows against the walls. Eli sat up, heart pounding. "What's happening?" he shouted. Vera's eyes narrowed. She moved to the door and placed a firm hand on the handle. "Do not leave the room," she said firmly. "It is not safe." Eli blinked. "Not safe? What do you mean?" "There are alarms all over the station. Maybe it's just a drill." Vera shook her head. "No drill sounds like this. You must trust me. Stay here." Eli frowned, confused and frustrated. He was a human used to solving problems, to taking action. Being told to sit quietly while danger lurked outside went against everything he was. He took a step toward the door. "Eli, stop," Vera said, her voice sharp but calm. "If you leave, you will not survive." Her tone startled him. He paused, staring at her. "Why, what is out there?" Vera didn't answer at first. She simply stared at the door, her jaw tight. Then she spoke slowly, carefully. "Raiders. They hunt my kind. They are outside this dorm. If we go out, they will kill us both." Eli froze. Raiders on the academy station? That sounded impossible. The station was supposed to be secure, a place for learning, for exchange, for peace. But the fear in her eyes told him this was real. He looked at Vera more closely. There was a calm determination in her stance, but beneath it, a tension that made her seem almost like a coiled spring. She wasn't just cautious, she was preparing for battle. Eli realized that for all her quiet demeanor, she was dangerous. And he had to rely on her to survive. Okay, he said finally, swallowing his pride. "I'll stay." Vera nodded once, sharply. "Good, sit on your bed. Keep your eyes open. Do not make noise. Watch and learn." Hours passed. The sound of footsteps, heavy and deliberate, echoed down the hall outside their door. Sometimes there were hisses, strange whispers in languages Eli had never heard. Every sound made him jump. He had never felt so trapped and alert at the same time. Finally, after what felt like forever, Vera spoke. "I am not just a student here," she said quietly. "I am from a royal line. My presence on this station is secret. If they find me, the academy will fall into chaos. That is why I cannot allow you to leave." Eli's eyes widened. "You're royalty?" "Yes," Vera said, her eyes sharp. "And if you think this is strange, it is. But now you must help me survive this night. Trust me, human. Your kind has unusual courage." "I will need it," Eli's heart raced. He had never been in a situation like this. He had never fought anyone. And now he was trapped in a room with an alien royal with dangerous enemies just outside. But as he looked at her, he felt something stir inside him, a strange mix of fear and excitement. He didn't know if he could survive, but he knew he had to try. As the night wore on, they began to talk quietly. Vera explained some of her people's customs, the strict codes of honor, and the dangers that came with being royal. Eli shared stories of Earth, of his childhood, of humans' strange habit of taking risks and pushing limits. For the first time, they laughed together, softly, quietly, at the absurdity of their situation. But the sound of movement outside reminded them that danger was never far. Every step, every shadow against the door, reminded Eli that he was not just staying in a room, he was in the eye of a storm. By the middle of the night, Eli realized something. He had judged Vera too quickly. He had thought she was cold and distant, but in truth she had been protecting him all along. And now, trapped together, relying on each other, he began to feel a strange sense of camaraderie. Humans could survive many things, but humans with allies, unexpected allies, could survive even more. As the red lights flickered overhead, Eli sat back against the wall, watching the door, listening to every sound, and thinking, maybe this night, this strange, terrifying night, was the beginning of something incredible, something that would change both his life and the galaxy's view of humans forever. The alarm's echo faded slightly, but the tension remained. Eli's pulse pounded in rhythm with the distant footsteps outside, and in the quiet moments between he realized the truth. He was no longer just a human in a strange dorm. He was part of a fight he had never imagined, and the night was far from over. Vera glanced at him, her eyes sharp but softer than before. "Stay close," she said. The real challenge has just begun, and Eli nodded, ready or not. He had no idea what awaited them, but he knew one thing for certain: humans were not so easily defeated. Not even by raiders, not even by the vast unknown dangers of the stars. The night dragged on. Outside the small room, strange noises came and went, soft, deliberate steps followed by distant hisses and low mechanical sounds. Eli pressed his back against the wall, every nerve in his body alert. He could hear Vera moving quietly, checking corners of the room, her movements precise and careful. It was clear she had been trained for situations like this, yet the tension in her shoulders revealed that even she was not completely at ease. Eli tried to focus. He had never faced anything like this before, never imagined being trapped in a small room with a dangerous situation outside. His mind raced, trying to think of ways to help, but fear made it hard to concentrate. He hated feeling helpless, and Vera's sharp gaze reminded him constantly that he had no choice but to obey her instructions. "Sit still," she whispered. "Do not move unless I tell you. Do not make a sound." Eli nodded, swallowing hard. "Got it." Time stretched. The room was quiet except for the low hum of the station and the faint creaks of the walls. Eli glanced at Vera, noticing small details he hadn't before. The way her hands moved over her gear, checking weapons he hadn't even realized she had brought, the subtle tension in her jaw. Every movement was controlled, calculated. She was a warrior, and this was her world. Humans were not trained like this, but humans had something else: creativity, unpredictability. Suddenly, a shadow flickered outside the door. Eli's pulse leapt. He froze, watching Vera as she stepped in front of him, blocking the doorway with her body. Her greenish skin seemed to shimmer faintly in the emergency lights. She placed a finger to her lips. Eli followed her silent command, holding his breath. The shadow lingered for a moment, then moved on. A tiny sigh of relief escaped him, but Vera's eyes remained sharp, scanning for the next threat. "They are testing the doors," she whispered, "trying to see if anyone is inside. They know I am here." Eli felt a chill run down his spine. They know who you are?" Vera nodded. "Yes, they have been hunting my people for a long time. This station is supposed to be safe, but they have ways of finding us. That is why you cannot leave this room, human. You must trust me." Trust was a difficult thing for Eli. He had spent his life relying on his own skills and instincts, but now he realized that survival required more than courage. It required teamwork. And Vera, though intimidating, was clearly the strongest ally he could hope for. Hours passed. Eli and Vera remained in tense silence, speaking only in whispers when necessary. Every sound outside made Eli's heart race. He started noticing patterns. The footsteps paused, the whispers changed pitch, and sometimes there were small bangs against the walls. Vera explained that these were probes, devices the raiders used to locate anyone hiding. "They are smart," she said quietly, "but predictable in their own way. Humans, you may be unpredictable too. That may help." Eli blinked. "Unpredictable? You mean like running around screaming?" Vera's lips curved in the faintest hint of a smile. "No, you act in ways they cannot expect. That is dangerous for them. You may have a talent. Eli wasn't sure if he felt proud or nervous. He had never thought of himself as talented in combat or strategy. But in this moment, he understood what she meant. Humans had a kind. The pounding on the door grew louder. Eli's heart raced as he pressed himself against the wall, glancing at Vera. Her eyes, sharp and alert, darted around the room, analyzing every corner, every shadow. This was no longer a night of waiting. The raiders were close. They had found the dorm, and now they were testing the humans and the royal alien inside. Eli, Vera whispered, her voice calm but firm. We may have to act. Do you trust your instincts? Eli swallowed hard. Yes, he said, though his voice shook slightly. He wasn't a trained fighter, but humans had a peculiar way of reacting to danger, sometimes recklessly, sometimes brilliantly. He hoped his instincts would be enough. Vera handed him a small metallic tool, a kind of multi-purpose device she used for repairs, but also capable of minor defense. We fight smart, she said. No heroics, no noise you cannot control. Eli nodded, gripping the tool tightly. The door rattled again, harder this time, and a low, threatening hiss seeped through the cracks. The raiders were clever. They were testing, trying to wear them down to force a mistake. But humans were different. They did not always act logically, and that unpredictability was a strength. The first attempt to breach the door came in the form of a mechanical claw, slamming against the wood with a deafening crash. Eli jumped back, but Vera moved with lightning speed, pressing a button on a panel next to the door. A burst of energy shot out, short-circuiting the device and causing sparks to fly. Eli blinked. He had never seen anyone move so fast, so precise. You see? Vera whispered, her eyes narrowing. Even when the odds are against you, there is always a way. Humans, you may surprise me. Eli's pulse quickened. I hope so, he muttered, barely above a whisper. The raiders were patient. They attacked in small waves, sending mechanical devices, probes, and occasionally sending in a few scouts through the corridor. Vera and Eli worked as a team. He would distract a probe with a small noise or movement, while Vera disabled it with her device. The synergy between them grew with every passing minute. At one point, a probe slipped past their traps. Eli saw it heading straight for the room's communication panel. Without thinking, he lunged forward, using the tool to jam it. Sparks flew and the probe whined as it short-circuited. Vera looked at him with surprise and a hint of admiration. Clever, she said quietly. You act in ways they cannot predict. Eli grinned faintly, feeling a spark of confidence. I guess humans are good at thinking on the fly, he said. Hours passed and exhaustion began to creep in. Both of them were tense, alert, and constantly on edge. Yet through the fear, Eli noticed a strange feeling forming. He was no longer just relying on Vera to protect him. They were a team. And in this strange, terrifying night, he realized something important. Humans were strong not only because of their bodies or their courage, but because of their creativity, their ability to adapt, and their refusal to give up. The next assault came suddenly. The door shuddered violently as multiple raider devices slammed against it at once. Eli felt a surge of panic, but Vera moved quickly, pressing her device against the panel. A pulse of energy shot out, repelling the mechanical attackers. Sparks filled the small room, and Eli coughed as smoke curled around him. Eli, move, Vera shouted. Now! He scrambled to her side as she activated another device, sending a low-frequency vibration through the floor. The raiders outside yelped in confusion, their sensors disrupted. It was a momentary victory, but it gave them the time they needed to breathe and regroup. As the room filled with smoke and the smell of ozone, Eli realized how different this was from anything he had ever experienced. He was not on Earth, not in a classroom, not in a training simulation. He was here, in a tiny room aboard a massive space station, fighting alongside a royal alien, facing a threat that could kill them both. And yet, he felt alive in a way he had never felt before. Vera noticed his expression and gave a small nod. Good, she said. Fear is natural, but courage is choosing to act despite fear. You have it, Eli swallowed. He had never thought of himself as brave. But now, trapped in the room with no choice but to fight, he realized she was right. Humans had a kind of stubborn determination, a refusal to surrender. That might just be their greatest weapon. The raiders, however, were relentless. They were clever, adaptive, and determined. Eli could hear the muffled sounds of their coordination outside. They knew this room was important, and they were willing to wait, test and try again. Vera moved around the room, placing small energy traps near the walls and corners. She instructed Eli to watch and learn, to act when necessary. He followed her instructions carefully, noticing how each trap worked, how each pulse of energy could change the battlefield. Then, a scout finally made it through the door frame, small, fast, and equipped with its own weapon. Eli froze for a moment, heart pounding, but instinct took over. He grabbed a nearby chair, swung it with all his strength, and knocked the scout off balance. Vera seized the opportunity, delivering a precise strike that disabled the intruder. Eli's hands shook. He had never fought anyone before. Never imagined he would be defending his life in space against a real threat. But the feeling of success, of working as a team with Vera, gave him confidence. He was beginning to understand the strength of humans, not just in courage but in unpredictability, creativity, and determination. "Not bad, human," Vera said quietly. "You adapt quickly. Perhaps faster than I expected." Eli gave a small smile. "I'm learning from the best," he replied, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. The rest of the night continued in a tense rhythm. The raiders attacked intermittently, testing, probing, and retreating. Eli and Vera worked in perfect synchrony, combining her training and his improvisation. Every wave they survived, every device they disabled strengthened their bond. By the time the first signs of the station's dawn cycle appeared, the room was quiet again. The raiders had withdrawn temporarily, regrouping somewhere outside. Eli slumped against the wall, exhausted but exhilarated. Vera leaned beside him, her sharp eyes softened with a rare hint of relief. "You survived the night," she said quietly. "And more than that, you proved humans are dangerous in ways the galaxy does not understand. Unpredictable, clever, stubborn, all of it. That is why I did not let you leave the room. I needed to see it for myself." Eli nodded, too tired to speak at first. Then a grin spread across his face. "Guess we make a good team," he said, surprising himself with his own confidence. Vera's lips curved in a small smile. "Perhaps," she admitted. "Perhaps humans are more than I imagined. And perhaps you, Eli, are more than a simple student. The night has revealed much." Eli leaned back, listening to the faint hum of the station. He had survived, yes, but more than that, he had learned something important. Humans could endure, humans could adapt, and humans could surprise even the most disciplined alien warriors. And Vera, who had seemed so distant and cold at first, now looked at him with a respect he had never expected. The night had been long, exhausting, and dangerous. But it had also revealed the truth of humanity, clever, brave, and capable of rising to challenges no one could predict. Eli knew this was only the beginning. The raiders would return stronger and more determined. The academy was far from safe, but he was no longer just a frightened student trapped in a room. He was a human, and humans did not give up easily. The night had been a test, and humans, he realized, were just beginning to show what they could do. The dawn cycle light seeped through the small window of room 7B, painting the room in pale gold. Eli rubbed his tired eyes and stretched, feeling every muscle ache from the long, tense night. Vera was still alert, standing by the door, scanning the hallway beyond with careful precision. Even in exhaustion, she moved like a predator ready for any threat. "Sleep?" Eli asked, his voice hoarse. Vera shook her head. "No time. They may retreat for now, but they will return. And next time they will be smarter, faster, more dangerous." Eli swallowed hard. He had survived the night, fought alongside her, and even contributed in small ways that mattered. Yet he felt the weight of the coming day pressing down on him. He had expected relief with the dawn, but danger never truly left. "Why are they after you?" he asked, curiosity mixed with caution. He had asked before, but now, after facing the raiders, he needed to understand the full picture. Vera's eyes softened slightly. "I am not just a student," she began, her voice quieter than usual. "I am the daughter of my people's ruling line. My presence here is secret because many wish to see my line destroyed. These raiders, they are mercenaries seeking reward and chaos. They think capturing me will give them power." Eli felt a chill run down his spine. The stakes were far higher than he had imagined. "And the academy?" "It is supposed to be safe," Vera said. "But the galaxy is not always fair. Some see humans and aliens as easy prey. They underestimate courage, adaptability, unpredictability." She turned her gaze to him. "Humans, Eli, are remarkable. You have proven that tonight." Eli blinked. "I did?" Yes, she said, her greenish eyes meeting his. You survived, you acted when necessary, and you adapted. Most would have frozen. Most would have panicked, but you are not like most. Eli felt a strange mix of pride and disbelief. He had done what he had to do, nothing more. Yet Vera's words made him realize the truth. Humans were unpredictable for a reason. Ego. The trapped raiders hissed and clawed at the corridor doors, their frustration growing with every failed attempt. Eli Carter pressed his back against the wall, his hands still trembling from the previous night's battles, but his mind was sharper than ever. The adrenaline had not fully faded. Instead, it had transformed into focus. Every sound outside the door, every vibration of the corridor told a story. Humans, Eli realized, could survive not only through strength, but by noticing details no one else expected. Vera stood beside him, alert and poised. Her greenish eyes scanned the room, tracking each movement of the trapped enemies. Though she was a warrior, trained for centuries in combat and strategy, she was clearly impressed by Eli's calm focus. He was not just a human scared for his life. He was thinking, planning, adapting. They will try something different now, Vera said softly. They are learning. We cannot wait. We must act. Eli nodded, his hands gripping the metallic tool she had given him. What's the plan? He asked. Vera pointed toward the corner of the room where she had set a series of energy pulses along the walls. We bait them into the corridor traps, but this time we will use them against themselves. You will act unexpectedly. Humans, you are unpredictable. Use it. Eli took a deep breath. He had been scared the night before, overwhelmed by the pounding of doors and the hissing of alien raiders. Now he felt something different. A strange confidence. Humans were clever. Humans could think creatively, and sometimes that was more powerful than pure strength. The first scout appeared at the end of the corridor, moving cautiously. Eli held his breath, then suddenly tapped one of the small energy devices. It created a flicker of light and sound, drawing the scout toward it. Vera activated her pulse, stunning the scout completely. Eli grinned faintly. Like this? Vera's eyes shone. Exactly. That unpredictability, it is a human gift. The raiders, now regrouping, were cautious. They had lost the first wave to traps they had not anticipated. Their frustration was evident even through the corridor walls. But they were relentless. More scouts and small attack drones were approaching, faster and smarter than before. Eli glanced at Vera. We can't just keep waiting. We have to make them come here, she nodded. Yes, and you will lead the bait. They will not expect a human to act so boldly. Eli swallowed hard. His heart pounded, but he moved quickly, making deliberate noises and actions that drew the raiders closer into the traps. It was risky, but that was precisely the point. Humans were daring in ways the aliens could not predict. Every step Eli took, every flick of a hand, led the raiders into the devices Vera had set. Suddenly, a larger raider appeared. A brute, far bigger than any they had encountered before. Its armor glinted under the corridor lights, and it wielded a weapon designed to pierce through doors and walls. Eli froze, fear sharp and immediate. This was unlike anything he had faced before. But Vera stepped forward, placing a hand on his shoulder. Do not hesitate, she said firmly. Your courage, your mind. It is needed now. Eli nodded, feeling a surge of determination. Humans did not back down, even when the odds were impossible. He took a deep breath, then moved in a deliberate pattern, luring the brute toward the corridor trap. The raider hesitated, confused by Eli's unexpected movements. Vera activated a hidden pulse, and the brute was momentarily stunned, its weapon clattering to the floor. Eli didn't pause. He lunged forward, using a chair to block the brute's path and push it into the trap. Sparks flew, alarms rang, and the raider let out a frustrated hiss. Vera quickly disabled the remaining smaller scouts, her movements precise and deadly. For the first time, Eli felt the thrill of true teamwork. He and Vera, human and alien, working in perfect synchronization. His unpredictability, her skill, their combined courage. Together they were unstoppable. Hours seemed to stretch like minutes as the battle continued. The raiders attacked in waves, but each time Eli and Vera responded with clever tactics, combining traps, energy pulses, and unexpected distractions. Eli began to notice patterns in the raiders' behavior, predicting their moves and adjusting accordingly. Each successful maneuver strengthened his confidence. Humans were not invincible, but they were clever, adaptable, and daring. Then a loud crash shook the corridor. One of the raiders had found a weak point in a secondary door. Eli's pulse spiked. Vera! They're breaking through. She nodded, scanning quickly. Use the floor panels. Distract them. I will handle the main assault. Eli moved swiftly, using his surroundings to his advantage. He created small diversions, knocking over objects and creating sparks, drawing the raiders' attention away from Vera. His actions were bold, risky, but effective. Vera took advantage of the chaos, disabling the raiders' devices and sending them stumbling back into the traps. As the night, or what remained of it, dragged on, Eli realized something important. Humans had survived countless dangerous situations on Earth, from natural disasters to conflicts, by using creativity, courage, and adaptability. Those same traits, now applied in space alongside a skilled alien warrior, were proving just as powerful. Finally, the corridor fell silent. The raiders, trapped, defeated, and frustrated, had no choice but to retreat. Eli and Vera stood together, breathing heavily, surveying the room and the quiet corridor beyond. For the first time since the alarms had begun, there was a sense of relief. Vera looked at him, her greenish eyes gleaming with a mixture of respect and admiration. You did well, human. You were clever, brave, and unpredictable. That is why we survived. Eli felt a rare warmth of pride. We survived together, he said. I couldn't have done it without you. She nodded, her expression softening slightly. Perhaps, but your people, your kind, has potential beyond what many imagine. Courage, adaptability, creativity. It is a dangerous combination. You may not realize it yet, but humans can change the balance of any battle. Eli smiled faintly, thinking about the long night and the countless threats they had faced. He had been scared, yes, but he had also discovered something about himself and about humanity. Humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, thinkers, and fighters who could rise to any challenge. The dawn cycle fully illuminated the room. Eli and Vera sat together, exhausted but alive. Outside, the academy slowly returned to normal, unaware of the chaos that had unfolded in the hidden corridors. The raiders had retreated for now, but Eli knew they might return. And if they did, humanity, and he, would be ready. Vera leaned back against the wall, her sharp eyes scanning the room one last time. Tonight has shown me more than I expected, she said quietly. Humans are clever, courageous, and unpredictable. That is why I did not let you leave, and that is why you survived. That is why the galaxy should never underestimate your kind. Eli nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He had faced danger, fear, and uncertainty, but he had survived, and more than that, he had proven that humans were not to be underestimated. As the station's lights shifted to daytime, Eli realized something else. Trust could be forged in the most unexpected situations. He had begun the night as a scared student, trapped in a room with a distant alien. By the end, he was a survivor, a partner in strategy, and a human who had proven his worth. Vera gave him a faint nod. Rest, Eli. This may be over for now, but there will be more challenges ahead. And when they come, humans will continue to surprise. Eli allowed himself to relax, leaning back and closing his eyes. He had survived the long night. He had fought alongside a warrior of alien royalty, and he had proven something to himself and to the galaxy. Humans were clever, resourceful, and dangerous in ways few expected, and that knowledge, he knew, would be the edge they needed in whatever came next. The station's dawn cycle had fully bathed the corridors in soft white light. Outside, the hum of machinery continued as if nothing had happened, unaware of the chaos that had just unfolded. Inside room 7B, Eli, Carter, and Vera finally allowed themselves a moment of calm. The raiders had retreated completely. Their devices were scattered and disabled, their scouts incapacitated by clever traps and unexpected human tactics. For the first time in 2 long nights, silence filled the room. Eli sank onto the floor, exhausted but alive, feeling the tension slowly drain from his body. Vera stood at the window, her greenish skin glowing faintly in the morning light. She seemed contemplative, thoughtful, and yet still alert. Her posture relaxed, but her sharp gaze betrayed her constant readiness. After centuries of training, centuries of battles, even she recognized the significance of what had just occurred. Humans, unpredictable, resourceful, courageous, had survived against odds that might have crushed even the most disciplined warriors. You did well, Eli, she said finally, turning to him. Her voice was calm, measured, but carried the weight of admiration. Not just surviving, but thinking, acting, adapting. You changed the outcome tonight. Eli rubbed his sore arms and shoulders. I didn't do it alone. You taught me what to do, you guided me. Vera shook her head. You guided yourself, human. I only showed you the path. You chose how to walk it. That is the difference. Humans have a way of seeing opportunities others cannot. That is why I allowed you to stay, even when you feared for your life. That is why you survived. Eli stared at her, realizing the truth in her words. Humans were not always the strongest in terms of skill or technology, but they